The Farish Class 90's have finally landed. Let's take a closer look. Hi, I'm Jeff and welcome back to Flint Hills. In this video I'm going to take a closer look at the new Graham Farish Class 90, and I'm also going to install and set up the decoder for it. The first one that I've purchased is the Class 90 in the BR Swallow livery. It's 371780. And the second one I've purchased in the Class 90 is in the Virgin livery, and that's 371783. And both of these require a Next 18 decoder or the Next 18 sound decoder. So firstly, let's have a look at the difference between the two models. The old model is on the bottom of this picture and the new model is on the top of this picture. Looking down on the roof area in this picture doesn't really show you that much, but there has been quite a change here to the pantograph, and on the new model there's a lot more rivets on show. I actually prefer the pantograph on the old model in the bottom picture. It has a much better springing mechanism, and as you can see here it's more realistic and it just clips away nice and easy. Whereas on the new model the pantograph is really just a damp squid. It's a piece of plastic that doesn't really do much at all. Just yucky. Looking at the side view, you can see on the bottom model, which is the new model here, that the panels are now red instead of black. There's an awful lot more detail on the battery box, but the biggest change here is to the bogies. The bogies no longer carry the couplings. So here on the old model you can see the coupling is actually connected to the bogie, whereas on the new model the coupling is connected to the chassis. So to conclude this comparison between the old and the new model, let's have a look underneath, and you can clearly see the battery box has a lot more detail on that bottom picture on the new model. Overall, very impressed. So let's look at how we install the Next 18 decoder into this new model. The old model was never DCC ready, but with a few clicks you could actually lift off the body shell very easily, and as you can see here I've converted mine to DCC by installing a small decoder. To fix this Next 18 decoder into this model is not that straightforward. Firstly, you have to disconnect both of the bogies, and these require a good little pull to get each one out. With those out, you now have to undo the 4 screws. 1, 2, 3 and 4. You can see now, having got the body shell off, it's actually got a speaker pre-fitted into the top, and it's also got now cabs at either end with cab lights and directional lighting at either end, so a much improved inside body shell. So with the body shell removed, you can now see the 4 tags for the lights, the 2 tags there for the speaker, the decoder blanking plate, the switches for the lights, and again 4 little contacts, but we're going to focus on the decoder. So here I've removed the blanking plate off the Next 18. Please don't get confused with that looking like a decoder. That is actually not a decoder. And here's my Next 18 decoder, which I'll now gently push into that socket. Now I love Zimo decoders. Unfortunately I just can't get any at the moment, so what I've installed here is the Train-O-Matic Loco Mander 2 Micro Next 18 decoder, and I use this because it's actually got Railcom on it, which is what I use on my layout. The next 18 decoder gives you quite a few extra mapping effects for lights. So here I've used function 0 to turn the front and rear lights on, function 1 to actually turn the rear lights off, and function 3 to turn the other rear lights off, and I'm using function 4 and function 5 for turning on the cab lights at either end. So this is function 1, turning the lights on and off at one end, and then function 3 for turning them off at the other end. And here is function 4 to turn the cab lights on at one end and off, and then function 5 for turning the cab lights on and off at the other end. A number of people often ask me what I set my CV settings to for the motor and acceleration. Well, using Decoder Pro here, I can show you my acceleration rate and deacceleration rate are both set to 0, which is CV3 and 4. This is because I use iTrain, and when I set up iTrain it runs it all for me, so it does acceleration and a deacceleration. Again, in Decoder Pro, looking at the starts here, I set that to 5, that just gives it enough inertia, that's CV2. I set CV5, which is the V high, to the maximum, which is 255 in this case, and CV6, which is the midpoint speed, I set that to 0, and this is all just initial setups to get the train to run. So with the decoder installed, let's give it a good run at full speed. So a number of people often ask me about setting up a speed table, so I thought I'd just show you what I do for this one. So I've cleared what's there, and I select the maximum step and click start, and basically the train will run round across a section of track here, and it measures that speed from point A to B and then back again from B to A, so I can get both directions. And as you can see here, the speed in each direction is too high for that locomotive. So what I'm going to do here is change CV5 from being 200, which is obviously too high a speed, and we'll reduce that down to somewhere like 150, and we'll write that to the decoder itself in the loco, apply it, and then we'll clear that last test, and then we'll rerun that test, and let's see what happens now. So it's still too high really. Coming back the other way. Yep, it's still too high. So let's go in and again just quickly change that maximum speed, and this time we'll make it about 120. We'll write that to the decoder and we'll apply it. We clear that, select speed step 126 and run again. Oh, and this time we're a little bit too low, so we're going a bit too slow this time. Yeah, too slow. Okay, so we want somewhere in between, so let's make that perhaps 135. There we go. Write that to the decoder, clear that speed step and run it again. I'm looking for about 100 miles an hour for a realistic speed, and there we go. Coming back in the other direction. Yep, that was good enough for me. So I'm happy with those values. So we'll stop there, we'll clear that out, and then what we'll do is we'll set it up to run a speed table with 5 steps of 5, and we'll start. go. So 101 in one direction. I'll just move that across the screen. Yeah, and 102 in the other. And here I can actually see the loco on the layout. Looking at the mimic board. Now it's coming across now. Through those two sections, and therefore it knows the distance of those two sections of track, and therefore it can calculate the actual real miles an hour. And there it comes, coming back in the other direction. And that's 98, 97. And that will now continue to run automated all the way through down to speed set 1. Obviously I won't bore you to death with that, otherwise we'll be here all night. It's now completed its speed test for all those steps which I set up, so now I apply it all and it would automatically put the speed in against every speed step, and that's how I do my speed table, and it's very consistent. So overall I'm really pleased with this Class 90 model. It's worked straight out of the box with no issues at all. Some of the newer manufacturers seem to spend a lot of effort going into lots and lots of detail, yet when the actual loco or the model turns up, it doesn't run. You've got to adjust the back to back so it keeps derailing, or the chips falling out inside, or there's no instructions with it. So a real big positive to Graham Farish. Great clear instructions and a really good clean model. The only exception I can find with this is the cheap plastic pantograph. I would have preferred the old metal one. Anyway, enjoy the running sessions and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.